Alright. So, there's a lot of... the future of the economy doesn't look very bright. It looks kind of bleak if you look at how much money's been printed within the last year and the rising deficit. But we're not going to go too far into that. It's not the purpose of this video. But there's a lot of people, given everything that's been going on, saying learn to hunt and fish. Move out into the middle of nowhere. And it's a lot of misinformation. That people who are saying that, they really are misinforming people. So I am making this video very quickly while I'm still rocking this wonderful winter beard. Try to set the record straight. What I have here is a post I made on a forum in a nice big font so I can read it with my old man eyes. So I'm just going to read this to you, and you make your own decisions. But so I'm not sure what to call this. Why bugging out in public lands is a bad idea, and why you will not subsist on hunting. And by public lands, I mean National Forest Service or Bureau of Land Management, NFS or BLM for short, not that figment of everyone's imagination. Yeah, I won't get into that. Like a lot of other guys in the Intermountain West, I spend a lot of time hunting in the mountains. Many call it backcountry. In terms of raw acreage of public land, where I live, we rank in the nation's top 5. In my case, I'm usually in the backcountry almost every weekend for much of the year. Most of the time I'm solo, usually chasing elk. So I think I have enough experience in this capacity to have made a number of valid observations, albeit this is just my opinion. In my own thinking, my wife and I had thought if things were to ever get really bad, we'd load up the trailer and bug out to the mountain somewhere. Over the course of the pandemic, this has shown itself to be an extraordinarily bad idea, and I'll try to explain why. Number one, you won't be the only one with that idea. The pandemic and lockdowns has pushed a lot of people out into public lands who would otherwise have been happy in the city. Last May, I saw more people in one area in 3 weeks than I had in the last 5 years combined. Last July, in another area I frequent, every camp was used, and some people were even making camps where they shouldn't be making camps. In the past, finding a camp was never an issue. As an aside, people who are new to the outdoors, they're pretty easy to spot. Second reason why it's a bad idea: water. Like every other animal, you must have water, and you'll need it often. Having frequented the backcountry for a few years now, I can tell you this need will funnel people into very few and select areas. You will see trailer and tent cities pop up anywhere where there's a source of water like a stream, creek, river, pond, or lake. Because of this water requirement, your ability to sustain yourself long-term will be extremely limited in many areas, and most people will congregate in areas that do have water. If you want to stay on your own and you're not adverse to bushwhacking, you can usually find a spring about halfway up a mountain, watershed areas, and random springs, but that brings up other issues I'll get to in a bit. Third reason: your ability to stay will mostly be dependent on what food you bring with you. If you think you'll survive on hunting after you run out of food, you're either dreaming, ill-informed, don't spend a lot of time in the backcountry, have been watching too many Alaska shows, or you're a really freaking good hunter, or you're just really freaking lucky. And let me tell you, big game hunting can be summarized in 2 pictures: the stars aligning and the Herculean effort of pushing a boulder uphill. If I was to summarize big game hunting in 2 pictures, those would be the 2. Number 4, hunting will supplement your food. It may extend the duration of what food you have, but it will not replace it. Unless maybe only humans for hundreds of miles around, but that ain't happening. Subpoints in point number 4. 4A, elk are migratory. They can be here today and gone the next. 4B, while deer are resident, they are super skittish, and one dumbass can spook them all. which makes it harder for you even if you know what you're doing. 4C, any piece of land has a carrying capacity. This is key, carrying capacity. The more humans in an area, the less food there will be to eat. Eventually, any big game such as deer and elk will either be eaten up or will have moved on. Grouse and rabbit will only get you so far. People, 4D, people by their very presence pressure big game. Take it from a guy who routinely goes out of his way to avoid people. The instant people move out, the deer and elk move back in, and vice versa. They know where people are, period. They just know. Number 5, security will be a bear if things get really bad. Here's the thing. To stay for a long duration, you're going to need to do what I call mechanized camping, meaning trucks and trailers. City equipment necessitates the use of roads and main, easily accessible beaten paths. At some point, without the means of resupply from a nearby city or town, there will be a lack of food, and some may turn to banditry as a result. And if you can resupply in town, why are you trying to bug out to begin with? These camps will be exposed, and security will be an issue that will take both manpower to maintain a 24-hour watch and fieldcraft in terms of creating a defensible position. These camps will be mostly vulnerable at night, and a lot of guys know how to move quietly in the woods. You could try stealth camping to the above-mentioned mountain springs, as concealment off the beaten path is a form of security. But this method will require backpacking, which by its very nature limits the amount of provisions you can bring with you. No matter how you cut it, bugging out to public lands will be a temporary solution. And hunting is not a long-term sustainable solution. And the truth be told, the only reason why there's game to hunt is because it's managed. If whatever reason things were not managed, the elk would be decimated, the deer would be decimated probably within an order of a couple of months, and they'd all be gone. Same thing with fish. The only reason why there's fish in the catch is because they're stocked, most of them. There are some wild fish, but by and large, places that stock fish are more common than places that don't. How long you can survive out there before food becomes a major issue will be dependent on how many people are out there, how much supplies you can bring with you, if you can legally resupply or not, what water is available, and your skill as a hunter or an outdoorsman. Bottom line, at some point without resupply, you will eventually run out of food, and you will be nothing more than an armed refugee defending yourself from the same. This is the conclusion that I've drawn over the course of 2020. Your mileage may vary. Moving out to the middle of nowhere and learning to hunt and fish will not help you. Not in the long term. See, what will help you is learning to garden. And that is what I've been building. My wife and I have a black thumb, but we're going to do our best to learn how to garden. That's the truth of it. All right, have a good one.
Then I will live in Montana. And I will marry a round American woman and raise rabbits. And she will cook them for me. And I will have a pickup truck. Or possibly even a recreational vehicle.